Good evening, everyone. This is the Planning Commission meeting of April 9th, 2025. I will call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. We also have a new staff member here with us tonight, our new Deputy City Manager for the City of Beaumont. If you'd like to introduce yourself, sir.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Gus Romo. I've been here now a month. I can't believe this time has gone by so quick. It's been a pleasure to work with your staff. Carol has been wonderful in helping me transition through this. So I'm going to be serving as your acting Community Development Director in the meantime while we get that position filled. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, welcome. Glad to have you. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Cooley?
Here.
Commissioner Copeland?
Present.
Commissioner Cueva?
Present.
Vice Chair Smith?
Here.
And Chairman Southern.
Here. Okay, looks like we are all here. We'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all stand, please. All right, do we have any adjustments to the agenda tonight?
No adjustments.
Okay.
Just, Noble specific plan termination.
We will be opening the public hearing and requesting a continuance on that item.
Perfect, thank you. Any conflicts of interest disclosure? Seeing none, we'll move on to item B, public comment period. This is for items not on the agenda. This meeting will be open to the public and conducted in a virtual format to be inclusive of all participation preferences. Public comment participation is encouraged by emailing any comments to the city clerk's office or by calling in using the phone number provided on the front of the agenda. Do we have any public comments on items not on the agenda?
I have no written requests. Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to item C. That is action items, public hearings, and requests. Item C1 is approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion for approval of our minutes?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Can we get a roll call, please?
I'm sorry, I do have a correction to make for the record. The minutes had the date swapped out. So it was the beginning of a previous minute with the action of the last meeting. So I have it all sorted out. I will email out the corrected minutes and then we will record the correct ones. So if we can get a motion to approve with corrections.
Can I get a motion to approve with corrections, please?
Motion to approve the corrections. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioner Cooley?
Yes.
Commissioner Copeland?
Yes.
Commissioner Cueva?
Yay.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Southern.
Yes. All right, thank you. That takes us to item C2. This is Plan 2025-0164, Beaumont Municipal Code Amendment to Chapter 17.11.110, Home Occupations. Can we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Jillian Fountain, Planning Staff. Tonight I will go over the proposed updates to the city's home occupation ordinance. These updates are aimed to ensure that the regulations are clear, enforceable, and aligned with current trends in the home-based businesses. The city's current home occupation ordinance allows residents to operate certain types of businesses from their homes through the issuance of a home occupation permit. The goal of these regulations is to balance business activity within residential uses and prevent nuisances such as excessive traffic and noise. In recent years, we've received feedback and complaints about how the ordinance is being interpreted and enforced, particularly with the rise of online businesses and remote work. During the City Council meeting on December 3rd, 2024, conditions 8 through 10 and 13 through 15 of the ordinance conditions were identified as needing review and potential revisions. During the City Council meeting on March 4th, 2025, Council asked staff to bring these updates forward for public hearing. These items include pedestrian and vehicle traffic, commercial vehicles, stored materials, residential impacts, and the use of outdoor areas for storage. Before I continue, can we have the red lines put up? Just so you guys can follow along with the changes that we're making. After reviewing the ordinance and consulting with the legal team, we propose the following updates to clarify language and improve enforceability. These changes will also align better with modern business practices. So we'll start with removal of condition 2, the restrictions on material equipment use. The old rule, materials or equipment must be typical for a home. We propose removing this restriction to allow a broader range of materials and equipment as long as it remains compatible with the residential character of the area. We are putting at-home businesses on par with other businesses in the city. We have a revision to condition 6, which is flexibility in room use. The old rule, only one room in the house could be used for the entirety of the business. We are proposing the change to add the requirement that no more than 20% of the home could be dedicated to the business, including storage. The removal of condition 8 and 9, traffic generation and delivery restrictions. The old rule, home-based businesses cannot generate more traffic than is typical for the neighborhood. Additionally, businesses could not use commercial vehicles for deliveries. We propose to remove these restrictions to allow for the necessary delivery of goods, particularly for e-commerce or other home-based businesses that rely on deliveries. The city is still able to enforce the nuisance provisions in the code should any issues arise. Revision to condition number 10, storage of materials. Old rule, materials must be stored indoors and out of sight from the public. Proposed change for the businesses can store materials or supplies indoors, outdoors, or in accessory structures as long as they are not visible from the street or public areas. This change provides more flexibility while still protecting the residential character of the neighborhood.
Do you want me to interrupt if we have questions as we're going through, or wait until the end?
Probably the end. Revision to condition 11, signage and advertising. The old rule, home businesses were heavily restricted in terms of signage and advertising. The proposed change that businesses can now have one unlit sign up to 2 square feet for temporary produce displays. Advertising for produce was part of the old rule, which we are not changing. We are also proposing allowing advertising on commercial vehicles as long as they comply with city's parking regulations. This again puts at-home businesses on par with business types in the city. The revision to condition 15. Use of accessory buildings. The old rule, accessory buildings like sheds or garages couldn't be used for business purposes except for growing produce. We are revising this to allow the use of accessory buildings for storage of materials and supplies associated with the business as long as it follows the new 20% requirement and other relevant codes. We also are including in provisions related to micro-enterprise home kitchen operations for consistency with the proposed updates in the zoning code. At this time, staff recommends Planning Commission hold a public hearing and forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council to amend Chapter 17.11, General Development Standards, Section 17.11.110, Home Occupations of the Beaumont Municipal Code. That concludes my presentation, and we will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Perfect. Thank you for that report. Do we have any discussion from the commission? Vice Chair Smith, thank you there.
On condition 10 for the material storage, the requirement is or is allowed to be stored outdoors as long as it's not visible for the public or the public street. What about for neighbors? If they're just storing things on pallets in their rear yard, is it prohibiting or requiring those views to be blocked?
Not from neighbors, no. So if it is in their rear yard, as long as it cannot be seen from the street or any public space, if they're backed up to a park, that would be an issue, but from neighboring yards, because sometimes with elevations, you can see into everyone's backyard, but that would not be a requirement for neighbors.
Okay. And then, 'cause, you know, I don't know the answer to this question. Cannabis would still be not allowed by city ordinance, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Smith, you bring up a very good point, though, with regards to looking at a neighbor's yard. If your neighbor is piling things up, even though they can't be seen from the street, but you can see that, is that going to be a problem for other neighbors as well?
And I was, when we get to discussion with, you know, with the commission, that's where I was going to go to. One last question. Any rules that are in place from an HOA would still, if they're more restrictive, would still be enforceable within that HOA?
Yes,
So if an HOA prohibits it, this would still not be permitted within the HOA?
yes. And we also, to touch on, you know, building up the materials in the backyard. So we do still have the requirement for the 20% storage, so, you know, to guide them not to go more than that, which is, sorry, not just storage for the 20%. That's the whole property cannot be more than the 20%. But we also do have our nuisance requirements in the code that we would be able to utilize if there's any issues with neighbors.
Okay. I was just gonna add for commission there. My concern is that, you know, obviously if we don't have a screening requirement for outdoor that's visible to the neighbors, it does become a code issue. So now you're bringing in a code enforcement department, you're relying on, you know, other items on there where, you know, it might be more suitable to have a screening requirement. You know, so we can look to try to avoid some of those issues, I would think.
And this is probably something that we'll want to talk with the city attorney about. So I know that code has been working on some cases with particular issues with views from a neighbor's yard. And so I know that we've been asked to kind of pull back on some things. So that if that's something we can discuss further with the city attorney on that.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission?
Yes. Number 11, home-based business shall not involve the display of signs or advertising devices on the premise, except on the one unlighted sign not more than 2 square feet may be posted. But then we go down and allow them to, this code allows them to have advertising on vehicles. And the vehicle has a weight, but it doesn't have any restriction on the size of the sign. So what I'm seeing is somebody pulls up their pickup truck with a camper on it or whatever with a huge sign and parks it there. I see a potential conflict there.
So the unlit sign is only for temporary produce displays.
Okay.
That's not for their actual business, for the home occupation. But the commercial vehicles or any displays on their vehicles, that is just aligning with other neighbors. So for example, our thought in our discussions with legal, say they work at the water district, they can park their vehicle at home with a logo on it. But if you have a home occupation, in the current code, you cannot. So just trying to align it to be equal across the board.
And I think maybe it would be some clarification, because sometimes you have vehicles that have wraps, but I think, Commissioner Cooley, if I'm understanding you correctly, it's not adding additional signage to the vehicle that would protrude or...
Well, what I'm seeing, quite frankly, is that if the guy has a vehicle that they use for their home business, and it conceivably could have a huge sign and parked in his driveway, whatever the business is. And I don't see where that is addressed. The comment was made, if he works for some business, park the driveway at home when he's at home, but I don't see anything that stops him from just pulling in and parking a vehicle there in his driveway that has a sign that could conceivably be 10 feet by 15 feet.
Well, it would have to be on the vehicle, so I'm thinking, I mean, we've got cars that are wrapped. You
Yeah.
have
Sure.
cars that are completely wrapped, but I guess where I'm going with this is, are we looking at, with the wraps, that would be okay, but not adding additional signage to the vehicle? This,
Well, I think, you know, kind of following, I think it's the kind of the billboard type displays you
that's-
have in the
yeah.
back of a pickup truck or something like that, it's,
Right.
we don't want, Bob's Burger on,
Right.
this great thing for his home
I-
business,
I-
Or
but
a small box truck with a sign that he just leaves in his driveway.
Right, because I
All
know
the
during
time.
campaign season, I saw pickup trucks that had big signs that
Uh-huh.
were propped up in the back, and then also big box trucks that had signage. So, I mean, that's something that we can look at, getting clarification from and working with the city attorney.
We can also double check the other parking codes that we have for commercial vehicles to make sure that if that is showing that that's not allowed, then that's what we would follow for the home businesses as well. So we can just double check the parking.
Yeah, and I'm thinking maybe it's just a clarification in the language of just making sure that that's confined to the vehicle itself and there's no additional added signage or, I'm sure there's some clarification language they put in there to just make that a little bit more clear.
yeah, there's a painting company in Calamasa, and they've got like 1940s pickup or something, and they have it just painted on the side. It looks pretty cool, but it's on the actual truck itself.
Yeah.
So I think something like that. I don't have a problem with that per se, but someone's putting the billboard in the back of the. I think that's a different case. So
Yeah, I believe our intent is only going to be to the vehicle, so if we need extra
Yeah.
language in there, we can.
Yeah, what my concern more is you have the big, huge hand-lettered sign says, gardening services, blah, 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 and the truck doesn't run. They just park it in the driveway, leave it all the time, and now they've got a sign that looks horrendous.
Chair and Commission, I would recommend, this is a time for questions, but we should open up the public hearing. Once we get comments, then at that point, we can deliberate, and you could ask us about those particular changes that you'd like to see. I see what you're saying in terms of maybe adding additional language to elaborate some of these comments. But right now is a time just for questions.
I understand, and I just want clarification on something. An HOA can be more restrictive than city ordinance?
Yes.
So we say someone works, let's just say hypothetically, for a blood bank, and they drive a blood bank vehicle that has blood bank on the side of the car as a stick-on. The HOA could say, you can't park that on your property. And
Yes.
that's okay.
And
The
that
city-
may also align with our regulations because we do have size requirements for parking for commercial vehicles and residential. So depending on the size of that
That-
vehicle.
In this case, it's not a commercial vehicle.
I think our
But the answer is, you answered my question. The HOA can be more restrictive
Yes.
than the city. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I think our HOA, we would look at if a vehicle is a commercial vehicle, if it's advertising a service or a business or something else on it, doesn't, it's not necessarily classed DMV as commercial, but, four-door sedan that's got a emblem on it is a commercial vehicle.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Well, I'm
Bishop
tabling
Quinn?
mine till after we open for comment.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Then I'll go ahead and I will open the public hearing at 6:18 PM. Are there any requests to speak on this item?
I have no written requests. Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:18 PM and bring them back to the commission for discussion.
So my question would be on page 14, item number 13, when it talks about cottage food operation. My question is, the way I'm understanding that, they would prepare the meal, someone would drive up, and they would bring it out, or they would go knock on the door. Do we restrict the time? Because the way that I'm looking at this, they could drive up anytime.
So we follow the Riverside County requirements for cottage food and micro enterprises. We do not have any differing standards. I can get in their code if there's any time restrictions. Back to you, absolutely.
Okay. That's mine. Thank you.
That's a good point.
Any other comments from commissioners? Hearing none, do we have anyone want to make a motion?
So at this time, if we have some questions on here, are you looking for us to make a recommendation to council with our clarifications, or is this something that you'd like to bring back to us?
I think clarification, if we go ahead and identify these are some of the changes that we'd like to this code, you could make that recommendation to the council and have that move forward.
So I'd say in general, I like the idea of updating this, bringing it in line with current, kind of current practices and current standards. So I would make a motion that based on our discussion and recommendations, that those be brought to council for consideration when they look at this item.
I'll second.
Commissioner, just to clarify, when you say to be brought to council with the items that you had discussed earlier, or any changes to that?
Yeah, with the items we discussed earlier.
Okay, perfect. So elaboration on some of these things, some of these changes on there. Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We get a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes.
Commissioner Copeland,
Yes?
Commissioner Cueva,
Yay.
Vice Chair Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Southard.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead and move on to item C3, that is suspension and revision of BMC 17.11.050, off-site improvements. Can we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Chairman and Council, or Commissioners. My name is Darren Usher, and I'll be presenting this item in regards to Chapter 17, Section 11 for off-site improvements. So the current problem as it is faced is, as the current code is currently written, residents wanting to build or construct new patios or garages within their residence will have to make off-site improvements, which is usually underground utility improvements, which usually extend beyond their immediate property and the construction area. And this can increase the costs of their project substantially, usually double or triple the amount of the original estimate. The proposed solution, so this was taken to council as a discussion item back in March, and the direction was a suspension of that section, so Chapter 11, Section 11.050. So the enforcement of that section, and this suspension would not affect any other of the provisions in Chapter 17. And this would just apply to non-residential developments or larger structures exceeding the specific size limitations. And then the red lines here. So what staff is recommending is to incorporate an exemption. So the exemption would be for single-family residential parcels within existing primary dwelling units that shall be exempt from Section A. And this would also be included after the suspension in the comprehensive zoning code update if there are any additional changes that need to be completed. And that's the end of my presentation. I am available as well as staff for any questions.
Perfect. Thank you for that report. Do we have any questions from the commission?
So this would, so single-family, additions to single-family homes, new single-family homes, if it's a minor frontage on there, there's no significant impact to public infrastructure. They would not be then required to make curb gutter type improvements. That, if I understand this correctly?
Yes, so so it's usually the cases that we've had brought forward are single-family homeowners that are trying to make, a covered patio or a garage, and because as the current code stands, they would have to make those off-site improvements. And so what staff is recommending is that exemption for single-family, so any multifamily, duplex, quadplex, or apartments would still have to comply with that code.
Okay. So would a new single-family home still be required to make the curb improvements? Is it only for the addition of accessory structures, so on and so forth? Or all single-family homes I'm assuming on infill lots at this point, not subdivisions?
So how we wrote it is existing structure.
Okay.
So new family would have to.
Perfect, okay. Thank you.
Good questions.
I take it back.
Go ahead.
Why 6 months? Not to exceed 6 months that we were going to do this? Why not indefinitely?
Well, I have it as 6 months just because that should be the estimated completion of the comprehensive zoning code update. So I would have it tied to that, so, because we would address it in that zone coding update. So I don't want to have it indefinite. I would like to have that addressed before then.
I understand. Thank you.
I have a question. Single-family home built an ADU on the property. They're no longer single-family. They're exempt now. They're no longer exempt, correct?
So ADUs are not included in these. These are already exempt from any type of infrastructure upgrades. So ADUs per California do not have to do those.
Well, I think what I'm thinking is that single-family home, my house, I build an ADU. Now I have two dwellings on the property.
Yes.
So that would mean, as such, my house is no longer a single dwelling on the property. I'm no longer exempt.
No,
still
you would still be a
considered-
single family.
It's still considered single-family.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. We understand what you're saying, because at the end of the day, as planners, we've had that issue.
Yeah, okay.
There's a fun handbook, if you would like it, on ADUs that we reference daily.
I think I have one, but thank you very much.
Any other questions from commission? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 6:26 PM. Do we have any requests to speak on this item?
I have no written requests. Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:26 PM. And we'll bring it back to the commission here for a motion.
So I will move to forward the recommendation to approve the ordinance to city council to suspend this section of the zoning code for 6 months.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Cooley?
Yes.
Commissioner Copeland?
Yes,
Commissioner Cueva?
Yay.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Southard?
Yes. All right, that motion, or that item passes unanimously. We'll go ahead and move on to item C4. This is Plan 2025-0204, public hearing to consider a resolution repealing the Noble Creek Vistas specific plan. Can we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. As mentioned previously, this item has been advertised. However, we are going to recommend that you open the public hearing, take any testimony, and then continue this item off calendar. Would you still like a staff report, or would you like to wait until we can bring this back and discuss it?
Is commission okay with any questions?
I think at
Hearing
this
none-
point, I had discussed this with our planning manager earlier, and that's what we discussed, but after thinking it over, I think we have enough time to continue to the next hearing.
Okay.
So I think we'd be okay with that, or recommend it
So looking for a motion to continue the item?
to the next meeting.
To the next-
So I was thinking we didn't have enough time, but since we have to do a 20-day review, but it looks like we do have some time.
Just
To-
for clarification, it's May 14th.
Okay, to the next regularly scheduled meeting, not the optional. Okay.
Okay.
I move.
Do we still need to open the public hearing at that
Yes.
point, or we just?
Yes, we
Okay.
still, because it was advertised, so we need to open the public hearing.
Perfect. Then I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 6:28 PM. Are there any requests to speak on this item?
I have no written requests. Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at,
We're going to leave the public hearing
I'm
open.
sorry, we're going to continue the public hearing to the
Yes.
next meeting.
Got it.
And do we have a motion to continue?
I move to continue the planning, or Plan 2025-0204 to the next public meeting.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Cooley?
Yes.
Commissioner Copeland?
Yes,
Commissioner Cueva?
Yay.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Southard?
Yes. All right, that takes us to item D, planning manager comments.
I have no comments tonight. I don't know if the deputy city manager has any comments that he would like to share with the planning commission, but I don't have any comments tonight.
The only comment I have is I'm so happy that the city budgets conferences for our staff. That is just wonderful to see, all the training that takes place. So that's it. Thank you.
So thank you for those comments. And with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting here at 6:30 PM.